When I'm not there, call them bitches scary cats, I call them Carol Baskins. Crazy curvy, wavy, big titties, little waist.
Fuck a princess, I'm a king. Bow down and kiss on my ring. Being a bitch is my kink. What the fuck else did you think? Fuck a princess, I'm a king. Bow down and kiss on my ring. It's gonna hurt, it'll sting. Spitting up blood in the sink.
I'm crazy, but you like that. I'm right back. Dances on your nightstand. Never forget I post them in the moonlight. Screw eyes, glacier with the blue eyes. I'm terrified.
We could do it if we tried. For me to say you're mine. Sophia, know that you and I shouldn't feel like a crime. I think we could do it if we tried. For me to say you're mine. Sophia, know that you and I shouldn't feel like a crime. You know I'll do
Time for I go, higher powers taking hold on me.
잡겠다고 저 높이 두 손을 뻗어봐
sec, but I'm bitch all up in it, make it lit like yeah, we some bitches who can rap, so yeah, 걸 하나 둘이 예쁘잖아 savage, we some 예쁘잖아 savage. You better run, run, run. You better run, run, run.
Oh my God, mistake, yellow, oh, bright, bright. Get 'em blind, can't throw me, I'm out of sight. If you mad, stay mad, we not alike. SAVAP, keep it pretty, pretty savage.
한날 걸쳤지만 자태부터 다름 짠하고 나타나면 카펫부터 가름
I can still hear you making that sound, taking me down, rolling underground. You can pretend that it was me, but no. Oh, baby, I'm playing on you tonight. Hunt you down, eat you alive. Just like animals, animals, like animals, moles. You think that you can hide? I can smell your sense the most. Just like animals, animals, like animals, moles. Baby, I'm
Apparently I need 100k. I don't know about that. I'm not very amazing, so I think 100k would be a little over the top. Oh yeah, I'm gonna need to put this person in the description. It's a good day. So, what's everyone doing? I'm on spring break. Wait, I don't know if they can hear this music because I'm not talking as much. There, boom. My drawing sucks, it's fine. That's what I think. I think my drawing sucks as well. Yeah, that's way too thin. That's too thin! Oh goodness. I have no idea what I'm doing. There we go. No, I want you to be like this. Sure. Sure, that's good enough. stop not doing what I want you to do? No, I want you to be curvy. Curvy. Yes, there we go. Let's hit the races. Hello. I have this vision for what I want this to look like, but I'm not very good with visions, so we're gonna have to just go with the flow on this one. Okay, so first, I will watch that so much later. I love horror stories. Anyways, continuing with what I was doing in the beginning. You're important. Yes, it's a story show. Excuse me. Just get rid of all that random excess stuff. And now I'm going to need your skin color. Come here. Thank you. Is like the most important part, so depending on how I want this to look, layer effects or whatever, they just won't look good. Was it even supposed to be an ear? I don't even know at this point. I think it was. I don't know, it looks like really small. In here. We'll leave it like that. Okay, we're gonna do red, the main color, and then for the sleeves, we're gonna probably do like a gray. Yeah, that sounds good. Oh my, no. It could be because of that right there. Or, let's see. I'm thinking it's because of that right there. Or that right there, so we're gonna use that. Ta-da, it's fixed. That should have... Oh wait, let's do that too, so that way it doesn't get into the sleeves. Yeah, I think it looks fine like this. I'll have like a few more. I don't know why, but I love those like jackets where they have like all these patches on them. Just to show the fact that it's like hecka old. Do what I want you to do. Yeah, good enough. Noise. Why are you still doing that? That's gonna make me very upset. Okay. No, wait! Oops. I am mad. Wait, why am I coloring this now? I'm an idiot. Okay, well, we'll just continue anyways. Oh, hi! Hello. I just realized that I'm very stupid because, I'm coloring this now, but I haven't added anything like the horns or the hair or the tail that I want to add or any, you know, anything. Oh, actually, I guess I'm not that big of an idiot. We can do that anyways. Just completely fine with the coloring, I guess. I'm not very sure exactly what I'm doing still. I'm the one who's doing this. I'm just like coloring at this point. So, how is everyone? What is they doing? I'm on spring break, so I get to do whatever I want for like another week. 7-ish days. Actually, wait, hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? 5 days? Today's Wednesday, 5. Sorry, I'm not very entertaining to listen to. Oh, crap, I'm making this. Can't wait to see everyone else's pieces. What they've done.
destiny. What if we reach the stars? Say you were made to be mine. Nothing could keep us apart. You be the one I was meant to find. It's up to you and it's up to me. No one can say what we get to be. So why don't we rewrite the stars? Or maybe the world could be ours tonight.
Okay, cool. No one's watching.
Do you know who the fuck you're talking to? I don't think so. Hair go long like Chia, money go long like Nia. I am the big idea. My twins big like Tia. My twins big like Tia Tamara. Wait, Tia Tamara. Wait, Tia Tamara. Wait, Tia Tamara. Hair go money go long like Nia. I am the big idea.
There's no power in what you do. Now every other day I've been watching you.
What is your... Hang on. Okay, what's your question? Cough. No. No, my art does not count because my art's my art, and I'm just good at what I do, so. Oh, hi, Nameless Moon. I thought that was your... What is going on? Shh, it's okay. Don't talk. Stop. Double A cup. Ew, icon. I'm so glad you cannot hear the music. You would hate it. You're not gonna listen to that. No. Okay, this one's good, I guess. Only works for apps, allowing other apps to capture its audio. Got it. There. Yay, Nameless.
Climb aboard, get ready to explore. There's so much to find. Little lights down, going on a mission. Start the countdown.
Vibes, yes. Cool. Okay. You know, all this one be like 10 minutes. You want it to be like... You know, that would be good. I think I'm the only one that talks to themselves while doing art. Okay, that's just like tiny, thin. Just thin tiles. Much better. Yes, I love that. Okay. I'm getting excited. Yeah, we'll leave it right there and we'll copy it. Move it over. Hello. I don't know about this fuck one. There we go. It was at 2 centimeters. Perfect. Okay. Now we just have to erase whatever is going on with this. I'm okay. My cat's snoring. I'm good. I'm actually tired. For the first time in like a really long time. What about you? How are you? Nice. Oh, it's not gonna get this for very long. It's just so I can get the color in there and just bucket it. And it's just so much easier. Okay. Snatch. Bucket. Now hide everything. Book it, book it. Beautiful. Yeah. I said good. There, now you can probably hear me better. I'm very quiet. I said good. How are you? Watching or learning because I show you how. My cat is snoring. Okay, nobody's here. I'm just gonna turn back on the audio. I got it.
Nigga can't keep my pussy out his hands. Fuck a last minute, gotta book me in advance. Been a bad girl and I'm trying to get spanked.
I wanna go outside, but it's cold.
was 7 years old. Mama told me, go make your
Hello. Moscow Gypsy is what you'll ever do. Oh, that looks so much better. Among Us update? I don't play Among Us anymore. I used to. And then I got bored of it. Apparently, I get bored of a lot of things if I'm not the creator. Why, what's the new Among Us update? Ooh, a new map. That one should be interesting. Hopefully. And then I didn't say anything, so chicken, hot dog, bologna.
Macaroni, sitting out with the homies.
My voice is cute. No, it's not. Oh, hi! Just back. What is wrong with this? Oh, that is nothing. Beautiful. This child better look big. Yes. It's actually going extremely well. Good night. What song? What song? I must know.
Some say I'm losing my faith, but I know I'm just living on a prayer.
I don't know if you
Keep slipping away, yeah. I watch you burn down this house that we made. It's pitiful how you let me
okay, so
lose. You better run.
decor and sitting right fucking nice.
Your time is up, nothing you can do. Better run.
I'm learning.
When you
Okay.
hurt me so bad, but now the tables turn, apocalypse is coming. I give up my hope and you left me so sad. But in the end, I learned the rains and all the angels could be bad.
I'm still waiting for everyone to put in their lines. This song is Ice Cream Angels by Cat and Estelle.
Oh God, I'm going insane. But I know I'm just living on a prayer. See your heart washing away. And that's how you let me in the cold.
I don't know if I
Going insane.
spelled that right.
Chasing after you, please don't leave me. I see your heart washing away. And better run, better run. I give up my phone when you hurt me so
Yeah, there we go.
I'm on a sugar crash, I ain't gonna fucking cash. Maybe I should take a bath, cut my fucking brain in half. I'm only just a bit tired of this fucking shit. Nothing that I write can make me feel good. Victim of the great machine, in love with everything I see. Neon lights surrounding me, I indulge in luxury. Everything.
Okay, that's enough. What is this?
How did I go from this?
It's a big question. Yeah, that's a great question. How'd you go from having 1K to like 190K? That is fantastic. Anyways, I'm gonna watch the horror stories.
I'm a 24-year-old male, and this happened to me a few years ago
Well,
when I was around 21. I remember because it was shortly after my birthday in December. It was really cold outside, and there was snow on the ground, as we had just had a snowstorm pass through our
Or she,
area.
I don't know.
I lived with my parents at the time, and my mom is not really a fan
They're
of
still
driving in
here.
the
There we
snow,
go.
so she asked me if I could
I
drive
thought
her
they
to
left.
the gas station for her to pick up some cigarettes for her and my dad, as well as a few other items they
Okay,
might
I
have
need
needed.
gray now.
I said sure, as I wasn't really doing anything at the time, and I grabbed my keys, then following her
There
to
we
the
go.
car. I
Engine
remember the cold
bucket.
air hitting your face pretty hard
Oh, it's
that night,
working.
so it had to be at least around the teens, which made the snow and whatever else was on the roads really slippery. This is important to know for later on in the story. The nearest gas station was about 5 minutes away from us, but given the conditions of the roads, it took us about 10 to get there. Once I was able to park the car, my mom got out of the car, then made her way inside the store. From where I was parked, I could see her inside the store standing in the line that was leading up to the register. I kept the car running as it was really cold and I just didn't want to be sitting in the car without any heat. I was browsing on my phone while waiting for my mom to get done, and right around that time I had seen her finally approach the register. There was a black truck that pulled up into the parking spot right next to my car. I found this a bit unusual given that the parking lot was empty, so I mean, there was really no reason for them to park right next to the spot where I was.
Well, it
But I
could be
kind of just
because
chalked
it's like,
it up to them wanting to be as close to the entrance as they could,
Yeah,
given
there you
how
go.
cold it was that night.
good job, you
No one
used
got
your
out of the car at
senses.
first, but I didn't even notice this until I looked up to see my mom walking out of the entrance back to the car. I glanced over to the truck's passenger side window, and I could just make out a figure sitting in the passenger seat, and they were facing in my direction. My mom opened the door, then got inside, before then asking me what I was looking at. I told her about the truck pulling up well over a few minutes ago around the same time that she approached the register, but that nobody had gotten out. She first chalked it up to maybe they were just waiting for someone inside the store to come out. But when I mentioned seeing a figure in the passenger side of the car looking towards our direction, she then began to sense why I was so spooked out by it. She told me to just back out and get out of there, and that we didn't need to worry about them once we drove off. As soon as I put the car into reverse and then began to back up, the passenger door swung open and hit the side of my car. A tall, very built man stepped out from the car as soon as the door made contact with my car. I hit the brakes as soon as I felt the contact, and the man stood there before throwing his hands up at me and then staring in my direction. I didn't really know what to do as I'd never really been in any sort of accident before. And my mom was sitting right there next to me and could see as well as I had that the door had not been opened until we had already started moving. The man slowly walked up to my window and just stood there. I cracked it very slowly, and I told the man that I was sorry, but that I didn't see the door open as I was backing out. For a brief moment, he didn't really say anything. That is, before he simply asked,
"Roll down your window a little bit more. I can barely hear you."
I knew this couldn't be true as it was really quiet in that area, and I wasn't even speaking in a low tone. I told him that I'd prefer to keep it cracked as I really didn't want to let cold air get into the car. This really angered the man, and he immediately spoke in a more angered tone now. He was telling me to roll down my window yet again. I again told him no, and this is when things then took a turn for the absolute worse. Without any warning whatsoever, the man smacked my window really hard with his hand. Startled, I immediately jumped back and rolled the window up. My mom was right beside me, just absolutely yelling for me to just back out and leave. But I was really afraid of hitting the man in the process, as he was still right next to my car. The man kept smacking my window really hard a few more times before he then tried punching it. It was right at this point where I realized that if I didn't get my mom and I out of there fast, this guy was definitely going to hurt us. I could see the cashier inside the gas station heard what was going on, and he looked to be on the phone with what I could only assume was the police. But there was absolutely no way I could wait for them, as the man was now both punching at my window and now kicking my door. It was like some switch had then flipped on in this man's head, and he had just totally lost it. I told my mom to hold on as I put the car into reverse again and backed out of there as fast as I could, just barely missing the guy by a few inches. I pulled fully out of the parking spot before the man ran out in front of our car and slammed his hands right on the hood. I sat there frozen, not knowing what to do, as the man looked right back at me. I turned the car wheel, then sped around him, trying to avoid him the best that I could before booking it the hell out of there. After that, I honestly thought that was the end of it. But as we made our way down the road to a stoplight, I was able to see headlights that was fast approaching from behind our car. And once it was close enough behind us, I could then see that it was the same truck the man was in. There appeared to be two people inside of it. I assumed the man I encountered must have been the passenger, and I guess the driver was someone I hadn't noticed before. I told my mom that it was them behind us, and she started to freak out and call my dad, then letting him know what was going on. We were still probably about 10 minutes away from our house given the road conditions, but I knew that there was no way that I could get us back to our house in that amount of time before these guys tried to ram us off the road, or whatever else they had planned for us. My dad told my mom for us to attempt to head back towards our house and that he would try and meet us halfway in his truck. She told me this, and I agreed that this had to be our best option, given that I couldn't turn around and head back to the gas station still not knowing if the police had even been called or not. So once the light turned green, I punched on the gas and sped off. I'm gonna be completely honest. I really wasn't being that cautious of the road at this point, as there really weren't any other cars at this point of the night. There were a few times where the car slid from the ice on the road, and I knew that it would only take one turn of the wheel to lose control.
Why did I go back to
But I
Germany?
wasn't going to slow down and let these guys catch up to us. After about a few minutes of driving, we were able to see headlights right in front of us on the other side of the road. I was thinking that it had to be my father, and as we got a little closer, we were able to make out his truck beyond the lights. Very surprisingly, the truck was still behind us, still keeping pace with me given the road conditions. I could see my father cut across a midsection of the roads and then stop shortly off the side of the road. I started to slow down right as we approached and then pulled off to the side of the road, the truck still following me. As I came to a stop, the same man from before that was in the passenger seat hopped out of the car, then started making his way to our car. The driver opened his door, but before he could step out, both of the men stopped dead in their tracks at the sound of my father's voice. I suggest that both of you hop back in that car and drive right on out of here before I put a bullet in the both of you. I could see my dad walking out into the light, radiating from both his and my headlights. He had his 9mm pistol pulled and aimed right at the man's head as he stood right next to my car. I pretty much just watched as both of the men just stood there for a brief moment as my dad slowly inched his way towards them. The man then very slowly backed away towards his truck before then speaking to what I assumed was my father.
You're really lucky you got here when you did.
The man laughed and jumped back into his truck before it quickly backed out and drove off in the other direction. My dad walked to my window and he asked me and my mom if we were okay. I remember telling him that other than being scared shitless, I think we were fine. Shortly afterwards, my dad followed us back home just to make sure no one else followed us. I really have no idea what those men's intentions were or why the man acted the way he did. All I know is that if I hadn't reacted how I did to get my mom and I out of there, I just really hate to think what those men would have done to us.
This story happened to me a month ago. I used to talk with one of my friends before going to sleep. So that day we talked as usual and went to sleep. The next day when I woke up, I got a call from her and she told me about last night. "Hey, why did you call me last night at 5 a.m.? As soon as I heard her words, I felt really weird since I was sleeping at that time, of course. I definitely remember that I didn't call or talk to anybody. "What are you talking about? I was asleep." "No, I swear to God, you literally called me, and the voice was exactly the same as yours." She then said that she felt that the call was so weird, so she ended up hanging the call. As soon as she told me, I heard a sudden voice coming from the bathroom. "Hey, I gotta go." When I hung up the call, then went to check the bathroom, I found the door was open, which was strange because I remember that it was closed when my friend just had called me. I looked inside, but there was no one there. So I closed the door and walked a few steps just until I heard the door behind me open again. I slowly turned around and went to close the door, but this time I went inside to check that no one is there. At that very moment, I could feel a cold breath on my neck. Being freaked out, I got out of the bathroom and went back to my room. While I was sitting on my bed trying to calm down, I heard someone whispering in my ear, "Veronica." That name, I immediately remembered it. That name was spelled by the Ouija board last night, which I was playing with my friend, talking on the phone. I asked if there was someone with me, and the board answered yes. Her name was Veronica. So she was the one that talked with my friend last night.
This post is actually what I wrote on the internet website anonymously. Hello, I have something to ask y'all. And let's get to the point. There is a strange smell like a fishy smell of water in my house somewhere. For your information, we don't have any fish tanks in our house, and we don't even raise fish. I can't exactly define that it's a real fishy smell of water, actually, but it smells that bad. It doesn't smell anywhere else, but particularly bad in the main room. The house where I live is newly remodeled. We had moved here and lived for about 7 months now. Since we moved here and lived for about 7 months now, there was nothing wrong with it at first. The weird thing is, it doesn't smell always like that. But I don't think I can live here anymore because of this disgusting stench. This is the first time I've ever smelled this awful smell at home. My family tried to find the source of the smell, but we have no idea what it is. At first, I thought it was coming from the curtains. When I sniffed on the curtain, I could smell something similar near the curtain. However, when I smelled it again a few days later, the stench was gone. And just yesterday, now my bed's mattress cover suddenly started smelling. I bought this around fall and washed it very often. I don't know what happened to this. I really don't know what the cause is since I don't have anything that smells bad in my house, like foods or something. Now, I'm so freaked out. Could the house itself smell like this? If anyone knows the reason, please let me know. Thank you. A few days later, I read a few comments posted on the website. Comment number 1. Well, you should ask a control office. Comment number 2. It sounds like mold. Look carefully. The window where the curtain was attached might smell. Comment number 3. Congratulations, you've moved out. As you know, some movies go like this. When the dead body is hidden in the wall, it does smell.
Are you ready for the roller coaster ride of your life? If you want to go home, you need to find what you lost.
I go to uni here in Leicester in the UK, and like most students, I'm out clubbing every weekend that I can afford it. I've had some of the best nights of my life with the girls in Leicester city centre, but I'm not gonna lie. I've seen some really horrid things too. From girls weeing themselves while they're too drunk to stand, to bar fights where rabid lads were whipping bottles at each other. I think alcohol has the ability to bring out the absolute worst in people. And it was on a night out in Leicester that one of the scariest things I'd ever been part of or witness to happened right in front of me. So we're leaving a club one Saturday night, planning on stumbling over the road to the kebab house to get ourselves some cheesy chips, when we see this girl sitting outside the club, looking absolutely rotten drunk. The poor thing can barely keep her eyes open, and it doesn't look like anyone there is looking after her, which was honestly a little bit concerning. But the kebab place we ended up sitting down in had these big glass windows that looked out into the street, so from my window seat I could still keep my eyes on her. I got my cheesy chips and I'm sitting there eating them when I see this lad walk up to her, who takes her by the hand and then starts trying to get her to stand up. I was really relieved at first because I thought her boyfriend had showed up to take her home, but the longer I looked, the more I just got this bad feeling in the pit of my stomach. Not only was this girl just refusing to go with this guy when she had every reason to want to get home and out of the cold, but the guy was like looking over his shoulder and looking around like he didn't want people to see what he was doing. You know, making sure the coast was clear or something. It was such an obvious sign of guilt, and I could just tell that something wasn't quite right. Eventually the guy just pulls the girl up to her feet while she weakly struggles and fails to shake him off. Then he starts dragging her away from the club and into the middle of the street. I start alerting my mates to this, and immediately we all get up from the table we're at, grabbing our boxes of chips and heading out into the street to confront the guy. We rush over, intending to give it our best British passive-aggressive, "Excuse me, do you know her?" When out of nowhere, this car rushes up and brakes violently next to the pair of them. But in doing so, one of the front wheels runs over the girl's foot, and she lets out this kind of dull wail of pain. Then as the guy drags her around the side of the car that we're approaching, we see her foot flopping around in this really unnatural way where her ankle is really obviously broken. The guy then starts to basically bundle the girl into the back of the seat that had at least 3 other guys in it, and we only just catch him in time to try to stop it. We're asking if he knows her and asking if the girl if she's alright, insisting he needs to call an ambulance for her right that instant. He starts trying to tell us that everything's okay and that he knows her, and he's going to take her to an accident emergency to have her foot looked at. One of my mates asks him what her name is, and he sort of freezes, hesitates, and pulls some random name out of his butt in a way that made it painfully obvious that he didn't know her before he walked up to her just a few minutes before. We start going mad, telling him we're going to call the police if he doesn't let her go, and this gets the other lads in the car really agitated, who start barking at him to get the girl in the car, which he does almost violently before the car starts to drive away. I'm trying to get the car's number plate while one of my mates is on the phone to the police, but I can't make it out properly. So for one horrible moment, I thought that was it, that something terrible was going to happen to that girl and we'd totally just failed to stop it. But I turn around, and my other 2 friends are piling into a Hackney cab screaming, "Get in, Chloe." Then what followed was legit like a movie. My mate is all like, "Follow that car," and then we're off, whizzing around Leicester city centre, following this black Volvo with the lads and the injured girl inside. As we're following it, it's just chaos in the back of the cab. One of my mates is still on the phone to the police telling them what's going on. Another one of my mates is giving the cab driver the lowdown on the situation, all the while I'm noting the fact that the lads don't seem to be driving anywhere near the local A&E. They're actually headed out of the city center towards the suburbs, which, to me, was a pretty good indicator that we're trying to take her somewhere dark and secluded to do only God knows what to her. My maid got off the phone with the police and told us that they told her that they had a unit in the area and they weren't messing about either. It was like a minute or two before we saw blue flashing lights, and the cab driver pulled his cab back away from the Volvo to let the police slip in to pull them over. When they finally do pull over, we all pile out of the cab while the driver waits for us, watching what was going on and shouting over and over, "Liar, liar," when the guy starts telling the policeman that the girl is their friend and that they're taking her home. The other policeman who was there then comes over to us and starts getting our side of the story, which basically involved me telling him everything I'd seen and how I said it was incredibly suspicious. What happened next all unfolded over the course of like an hour, with more police cars turning up to keep an eye on the lads while one set of policemen got the girl out of the car and drove her to the hospital. I'm not sure if the lads got arrested or not, but I know they got their details taken down, and no matter what happened after that, I know the girl ended up being taken away from the obvious danger and getting her foot seen to. My only real concern then was that the cab driver was going to charge us like an arm and a leg for keeping him occupied for so long, but he actually refused to take any money off of us, and in the end, saying it was just nice to see some people doing some good in the world, and that when his daughter is our age and gets into any trouble, that he'd hope there'd be some good Samaritans like us to help her out.
I always see 44 minutes. Hello, I'm posting this on the website because I have a question. Every time I look at the time, I always see 44 minutes. I mean a number, 4-4. Those 5 years of marriage with my husband was the beginning of this phenomenon. I've been going through a hard time because of his bad habit that he drinks almost every day. And we've been living a dry life with each other, sleeping in separate bedrooms without any marital relations. My life was not happy, and I couldn't stand it anymore. So I ended up leaving home one day carrying my 4-year-old baby on my back. I demanded a divorce, but my husband didn't agree. While living apart from him, I started to meet someone for a while, and that's when all the things started. He often said that he sees 44 minutes whenever he had his eye on the clock. And one day I started to experience the exact same thing with him. After divorcing my husband, I broke up with the guy I met later since I couldn't get along well with him either. However, I've been watching the same time, 44 minutes, since then. For example, it would be 10:44 p.m. when I turned on my cell phone all of a sudden, and it would be precisely 4:44 a.m. when I checked the time by myself at dawn. Another day, I heard a hallucination that sounded like my phone bell ringing. So I checked my cell phone, and it was exactly 44 minutes. It's been more than 2 years since living like this. Meanwhile, I heard that my ex-husband had passed away lately due to a cerebral hemorrhage caused by excessive drinking. I was very sorry for him and suddenly wondered whether the 44 minutes had been predicting all these things. If I knew he'd leave like that, I'd try to get along with him one more time. I couldn't breathe with regret and apology when I thought about him who had a hard time alone. Anyway, I thought everything settled down like that. However, I still see 44 minutes to this day. Like most of the Asian countries, the number 4 is often recognized as an unlucky number. I'm frightened, and I'm sick of those numbers, 44 minutes. What does that mean? Please let me know. Please help me. Regarding I always see 44 minutes. You see, 44 minutes is just one of the 24 hours. 1 minute, 13 minutes, and 44 minutes are all just one number in 60 minutes. I know number 4 is given a special meaning, but time is just time. For example, if I see 7 minutes every time when I look at my watch, I guess I'm going to think that it's just one of the numbers in 60 minutes. It's not a symbol of luck or anything else. Not a big deal. Just do not pay too much attention and try to use it in real life. Let's say you are cooking noodles at 41 minutes, And you think it'll be 44 minutes at some point, right? Then you can stop making noodles and eat them right away. And there's another case. Let's suppose that it's about 8:04 p.m. now. If the drama starts in 40 minutes, then turning on the TV thinking like this, oh, it must be 44 minutes exactly. I'm so sorry that your ex-husband died, but I think it's a natural result of his frequent drinking. First of all, thank you for your answer. By the way, the answer adoption rate is 44.4%. It's really weird, isn't it?
In December of 2006, I was 15 years old at the time. I had an extreme fear of the dark. While laying in bed, I would always cover my mirror, or I'd face the opposite side of the room that my mirror was on. I'd also make sure that I didn't stare at any dark corners of my room, along with my closet, which was a very dark space that I couldn't help but face because it was on the opposite side of the room from my mirror. The next thing was that if I look in the mirror from my bed, I could see my closet. So one night, for some reason, I decided that I wanted to get over my fear of the dark. When I went to bed, I didn't cover up my mirror, didn't put my head under the covers, nor did I face the opposite side of the room from my mirror. I laid down, turned my lamp off, and stared at my mirror. Then I guess I fell asleep. When I woke up, I was looking at my door. Then I panned my eyes over to my mirror. And to my surprise, there was someone standing in the darkness of my closet that I saw in the mirror. I fumbled to turn on my lamp, and I looked at my closet, but no one was there. I told my parents what happened. For some reason, they said it was my imagination. My 15-year-old imagination, I guess. I told them that I wasn't 3 years old and I know what I saw. A week later, I got up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, and I looked in the mirror, surprisingly seeing the same dark figure in my mirror. But he was closer to my bed. A lot closer. I ran screaming out of my room and told my parents again. I told them that there's no way that I would sleep in my room again. So my father said he would sleep in there starting the next night, in which I pleaded for him not to do it. Of course, he didn't listen and went anyway. The first few nights, there was nothing happening. My father didn't understand what scared me, but insisted that I never go in the room again. I'd go in there and grab anything that I needed. One night, my parents were placing more gifts under our Christmas tree, while joking about the so-called monster in my room, as my father says. This whole time while he slept in my room, I slept in his with my mother, but I was on the floor. We all watched the movie and went to bed like usual. But my mother and I watched the Grinch movie, and that's when I guess I dozed off. My mother and I were startled hearing my father scream like that. We both ran into my room. My father was grabbing his left arm in the left side of his chest area. At the same time, he was pointing at the mirror with a startled look. My mother screamed for me to call 911, in which I ran to another room to call. When I came back, my mother was crying uncontrollably and my father wasn't moving anymore. His eyes were wide open, in the direction of the mirror, just stuck on it. My father passed away from a massive heart attack. After that night, my uncles and grandparents helped us move out because we didn't want to stay there anymore. My grandfather found a journal on the nightstand next to my bed. I never put it there. My mother looked at it and said it was my father's handwriting. What we didn't know was that my father kept a log for every night that he slept in my room. He mentioned that he saw someone in the mirror, and every night he would get closer to the point that the dark figure was standing over the bed. He just didn't tell anyone because he didn't want to scare us. I really don't know what to think, honestly. Is this my fault that he's dead? I know our Christmas that year was not joyful as we wanted it to be.
One, like this? I'm currently living together with my best friend. One day, while we were sleeping, she suddenly screamed and jumped up from the bed. I asked what happened and she explained what she had just experienced. So she got a sudden sleep paralysis when she was sleeping. She couldn't move her body at all. Moaning, she called my name desperately and said, "Help me. I think I got sleep paralysis. Give me a hug if you can hear my voice." Just then, someone started to press on her chest with an unbelievable, tremendous force, and she replied with my voice, to be exact. "Like this? Like this?" And my voice sounded like frantically, she said. 2. The ticking sound. One day in the middle of the late night, I woke up to the sudden sound of the clock ticking. And what I realized right after I opened my eyes was that there was no clock at all in my room. As soon as I recognized the fact, the ticking sound coming from my room suddenly began to be heard, like an offbeat. You know, the ghosts could make the sound of ticking. 3. The computer in the motel room. Because of my work, I had to stay at a motel one night. While I was sleeping for a long time, I suddenly saw the computer turning on automatically around 4 a.m. On top of everything else, internet broadcasting suddenly started. I thought something was weird, but I was so tired that I was almost going back to sleep. Then I heard the sudden voices of 2 men on the computer.
Wow, 22 people are watching now.
Terrified, I immediately turned off the computer right away. 4. The coincidence. I experienced this myself once before. While I was sleeping, I had a dream of someone pulling me roughly. Surprised, I swung at someone that pulled me in my dream with my fist and then woke up. And when I opened my eyes, I was hanging on the balcony railing, and my mother was pulling me desperately. Her nose was bleeding, and I realized that it was my mom who pulled me in my dream at that moment to save my life. What was more surprising was that one of the female students jumped to her death from our apartment at that daybreak.
In late 2008, I came one night to find my mom sitting in the kitchen all alone and in floods of tears. When I asked her what was wrong, her answer made my jaw drop. My dad had left her. There was absolutely no indication that anything was wrong with their marriage or that he was remotely unhappy. But that afternoon, while I was out, he had apparently packed a few things into a suitcase, told her he was leaving, and just disappeared. I only mention this because it explains why my mom and little sister just didn't want to be in the house over Christmas and New Year. That kind of family-oriented time of year would have just been way too hard on them, so they basically buggered off to Mexico for a month to just decompress or whatever. Point being, I was all alone for Christmas and New Year's. Christmas Day sucked, and I realized that they were seriously right about not wanting to be alone in the house at that time of year. So for New Year's Eve, I decided to throw a little get-together for me and a load of my mates, hoping that a little party might take away some of the sadness I felt as a result of my dad leaving us. So on the night itself, it ends up being about 20 to 30 of us getting together in my parents' place, getting drunk, listening to music, playing Xbox, just a big hangout among some of the people I was closest to. It was a really good night to start off with, and it really did help take my mind off of things for a little while. We did the whole New Year's countdown thing, set off a few fireworks, generally having a brilliant little night together. But the drunker we all got, the messier things became, until it was just a medley of people throwing up, hooking up in the spare bedroom, or arguing amongst themselves. 2 of the people who ended up fighting were my mate Chris and his girlfriend at the time, a girl named Katie. And what I could gather, Katie thought Chris had been flirting with a mutual friend of ours and had taken issue with it. Chris was insisting that they were just being friendly and it was nothing to worry about, but Katie was adamant that something was going on, that he was cheating on her, blah blah blah. You know how it is, teenage drama. Now I know Chris really did love her, so it wasn't like a stand-up argument. It was more like him begging her to
eat. Oh my god. Epic avocado. She gonna do one too. Also, I need a channel banner. Help me. I can actually do it. What is going on? Oh. That's me. Okay. Back to this. Hiss hiss. Okay. You gone?
Like him begging her to see reason and to not go mad
Actually,
and dump
already
him
heard
over
this
some
one
perceived
before.
bit of flirting. He swore he'd never do anything like that she was the only girl for him, how much he loved her, all this romantic, theatrical stuff that you might expect from two young lovers. It wasn't really anything of my business, though, so me and the other party guests just sort of left them to it while we got
No,
on
you're
with
not.
trying
You're
to have
fine.
fun. Then a little while later, I find Chris sitting in the back garden, swigging off a bottle of raw vodka on his own. I go up to him to ask him if he's okay, only to find that he's crying, rotten drunk, saying that Katie had dumped him and gone home. I tried to be a good friend and
not late,
console
you're
him as
fine.
best I could, saying that she probably was just drunk and over-emotional, how there was a good chance that they'd just get back together over the next couple of days when she'd realize she'd made a mistake. But he was insistent. She was gone for good, and they wouldn't be getting back together. All I could do was get him on his feet and hug it out with him. The poor guy really was in one heck of a state, and I managed to convince him to hand over the vodka, drink some water, and then get some sleep in my bed so he could maybe sober up a wee bit before heading on home.
A wee bit.
He agrees. I tuck him in and then leave him to get some rest. About an hour or so later, the party
You
is
tuck
winding
him
down,
in?
and the remainder of us are
Like
just
he's your
chilling in the TV room when someone goes off to use the toilet. They return like seconds later, saying someone's in the bathroom throwing up, then asking if they can go and take a pee in the back garden. Of course, I tell them no. I didn't want them peeing all over my mom's flower beds, and that I'll nip upstairs to see if I
73
can
minutes.
get whoever is out of the bathroom. So I get the
So I just,
toilet
like, don't
upstairs,
do hours
and
anymore, and
I
I'll
can
just do
hear
that.
someone gagging and
Made
retching on the other
a-
side of the locked door.
I don't even know how to say
My
the
friend
word.
Julia
LC
joins me,
Her
a
name
wee bit
is...
concerned, and starts
Still do
trying
not know
to
how to say that.
help me talk to the person who's locked themselves in the bathroom. It's sometime then that I notice that two doors are open, the first being my bedroom, the second being a little cupboard on the first floor landing. I check my bedroom and see that the bed is empty, so it's obviously Chris that's in the bathroom, puking his guts up because of all the vodka he drank.
It's just
I shut the door to the bedroom, then go to close the door on the other room, which happened to be a little cupboard that my mom kept cleaning supplies in. My first thought was that Chris had opened up that door thinking it was the bathroom in his drunken haze, then legged it to the right bathroom in his desperation to puke. But I noticed something that, at first, I didn't really understand the significance of. The cleaning supplies that my mom usually kept all neat in a little plastic box were spilled all over the floor. Not like open fluids spilling out. They were just all out of the box like someone had been rooting
the window.
through them. As I'm wondering why
They're on
someone
now.
would do something
Chill.
like that, Julia calls out
Come here.
that
Get
the
underneath the
person who
blanket,
locked
please.
themselves in the bathroom,
where you
presumably
belong.
Chris, had gone quiet all of a sudden, and that they weren't
You were
responding.
going insane for no reason.
That's when I put two and two together. Violent vomiting, cleaning supplies missing, deep drunken depression. Chris was trying to end his own life.
Dun, dun, dun,
I absolutely pegged it to the bathroom door and started trying to kick the door off the hinges. Julia screams in shock at what I'm doing, and people from the living room start piling out towards the bottom of the stairs in utter confusion. I've been really protective of the house all night, not wanting people smoking inside, not wanting people peeing anywhere they shouldn't, trying to stop spillages and all of that kind of stuff. Then there I was, booting down my own bathroom door. It was way too heavy to actually kick off the hinges, but I did manage to kick a hole in the wood paneling, and that's when I got a look inside. Chris was laying there, a bottle of bleach next to him, and there was like pink puke all over the cistern, the floors, and his clothes. It was pink because he drank the bleach, and it had corroded or burned the inside of him so much that he had vomited up blood.
This is Bandit. Sometimes his food and toys are ordered online, but today he's going to Tractor Supply. He'll find the brands he loves at everyday low prices. Going to the store sure has its perks.
We were distraught, terrified, almost sure that he was dead, but we were quick to call an ambulance. Chris had his stomach pumped and he survived, but it took a long time for him to be back to normal. Because he puked, the fumes had damaged his lungs or something. I'm not a doctor, so don't have a go if I get the details wrong. So he had trouble eating, drinking, and breathing for at least a month after that. 12 years later, and I've never forgotten that. And I'm pretty sure neither has he. Because as far as I know, Chris never drank vodka again, because of the smell of it makes me think of that night. God knows what horrible memories it brings back to him.
Before the story, just a little background information. I'm a 15-year-old guy living in northern Florida with my mom and my dog. We live in a 2-story apartment located in a small apartment complex that just happens to be right next to an old cemetery. Just to be clear, I get out of school at 3 o'clock, and my mom doesn't get off work until 5, so it's typical of her to take a late lunch and pick me up, then go back to work for another hour and a half and get home around 5:30. Anyways, on with the story. So it was around 3 months after we moved into our condo when this occurred. It was a typical Friday for me, go to school, get home at 3:15, and be home alone until my mom got there. On this particular day, my mom decided to stay late and wouldn't get home until 8 o'clock. I, like most other teenagers, didn't mind being home alone for extended periods of time, simply because I got to play video games without any interruption. It's around 6:15. My dog was whining, so I decided to take him for a walk. As I walked downstairs, I heard what sounded like someone breathing outside my front door. Not just light breathing. I mean, it sounded like someone had finished running a marathon or something. I turned to investigate, and to my horror, I saw a tall, shirtless man standing with his face pressed directly against the glass. This man had to be at least 6'7" in his mid-50s and had a lumberjack-style beard with very large glasses. My kitchen is right next to my front door, so I grabbed the biggest knife I could and told him to fuck off. He seemed emotionless and simply walked away. I wish the story ended there, but of course, it didn't. It was now around 7:30, so it was getting dark, and there was no signs of the creepy man, so I decided it was safe to proceed outside. So me and my dog walked our usual path, which led us directly past the cemetery. This time, it was